My great uncle Saul, and he used to be in vaudeville. Man, now there's a magnificent bastard, you know?
Yeah, tell us all about that magnificent bastard, Uncle Saul.
Well, I had several uncles who were in vaudeville. I talked before about, some of their experiences in vaudeville, and Ernie the Cocksucker, and that was a vaudeville act. Well, burlesque, and most of their experiences were in burlesque. And I come from a long line of burlesque and vaudeville performers, and stage people, and such as that, carnies, and just the whole thing, the whole traveling thing. And so anyway, which brings you this fine piece of meat you see before you. And Uncle Saul, he was a boofer, he was a dancer, and he was one of the first male burlesque dancers. He was a stripper, and he used to do the gay circuit. And he used to do comedy in the Catskills and shit like that, but he used to take off his clothes for men, and that's the kind of family that I come from. And, you know, but my mother took her clothes off for men too, so what's the difference? You know, it's all gender discrimination. But anyway, he used to take off his clothes, and I've got, and he posed nude. He was big, you know, he would pose nude, and there were underground type calendars, you know, for the gay guys, and Uncle Saul was in there. He was beautiful, you know, but he was straight, you know, and
well, it all boils down to economics, doesn't it?
Well, it was economics, and anyway, he ended up stooping this gypsy named Nellie, and it just kind of added, and he got a child by her, and it just kind of added to the gypsy blood in the family, which was already there, you know, and so, and it's just more of the same, you know, but anyway, so Nellie had this bastard kid running around, and that was Eddie, and but Eddie was an unusual kid, and unlike Uncle Saul, who just pretended to be gay, Eddie turned out to be the real thing, and it was pretty manifest. I mean, say by the time he was 10, this was obviously a flaming pansy, and yeah, and nobody gave a shit, because the lineage of homosexuals in my family is pretty long and time-honored, but of course a few people had to be straight so you could keep producing kids, so you could get the likes of me. Hooray for breeding. And you know, but yeah, tons of gay people in the family, and mostly before a time when that was considered kosher, you know, and but it was all very underground, and we're underground people, and you know, and they were in my family, you know, they were into everything first, you know, before it became the thing, and absinthe drinkers and dope smokers of all stripes, you know. And we had a couple opium addicts in the family, but for the most part, people stuck to the more benign drugs. And oh my God, even the old ones, when acid came along, you know, even the old ones were, you know, hip to that. And there's family videotapes of like some of my old great uncles and such, and it's like these geriatrics frittering away on acid. And they showed this to me when I was like a little kid, you know, these are the home videos I grew up with, is watching my relatives totally baked, running around nude, and, you know, bellowing like the moose. I don't know, it was just like amazing. And, you know, but anyway, enough about my family. But no, you know, there's the whole family mythos in America, and it's mommy, daddy, baby, and everything's oh so nuclear and so obscenely conventional. Hey, shit ain't like that. Not in the real world, not down here where we are. And so the whole concept of the nuclear family makes me projectile vomit. But, you know, because things just are not that way, and things are not so cut and dried. And, you know, when people talk about the American family, they're not talking about my American family. They're probably not talking about yours. They're talking about some pie-in-the-sky concept that should have died out with the dinosaurs. And, you know, now, in this presidential election year, in this political bloodbath, people keep talking about the family. But you know what? You're a chump if you think that they're talking about your family or mine. They don't care. They're talking about little Susie Homemaker. They're talking about families from the 1950s. They're talking about long dead concepts in the American family. And
well, my whole question is the ideal family of the 1950s. Was it not as much bullshit then as it is now?
It's precisely as much bullshit then as it is now. And
not to derail your train of thought or anything.
But that's so easy to do. Train of thought, like I have one.
Yeah, Casey Jones is driving it off the cliff.
Oh, don't even get me going. We just sat here and watched some celebrations of American mythical figures. Johnny Appleseed and Paul Bunyan and such as that.
Horrendous lies about Paul Bunyan.
Horrendous lies about Paul Bunyan. But I bet he was well hung.
Yeah.
Had to be. I mean, a guy like that. And if you think Paul Bunyan was well hung, you should have seen his ox. But the American family lies. And it's not anything about my family. And in my family, with the lineage that I have of quite a number of gay people in the family, and
gypsies, vaudevillians.
Communists. We had communists in the family, and Jews, but don't tell anybody. And
okay, we won't say the J word.
yeah. Should I do it again? Oh my God, there's a Jew on your television. May use the other take of that.
Hang on. I'll let you see yourself doing that.
Oh my God. Look, there's a Jew on your television set. Yeah, use the other take. But anyway, which brings me to ceremonial magic. We had ceremonial magicians in the family as well. And not these half-ass guys like you got running around today, these new age hug-a-tree motherfuckers. No, it wasn't like that. This was real. Anyhow, all of this has been making me think of that famous old magician, King Solomon. King Solomon is not quite the guy that they record in the Bible. He is well known in magical circles to have been in touch with 72 primordial intelligences, which most of you Baptists will call demons. And the 72 demons can be summoned by evocation today And in fact, they are by magicians all over the world. And you can call them into your presence. But there are a number of books detailing instructions on how you do this. And, you know, I'd really like to see Fayetteville get more into magical evocation. Or, as Mr. Crowley said, I believe, invoke often. I'd like to see the youth of Fayetteville get turned on to ceremonial magic. Because I think that's one of the better ways that you can go spiritually. And just bypass the namby-pamby love, you know, the love the goddess, pagan, whatever, mush. Go straight to ceremonial magic. And I'm not cutting to any pagans because I have about 1,000 friends who are, and so my apologies if I have offended any devotees of the goddess. But it's but as for a path for me personally, it seems very peaceful and loving and just you know. So there's only so much of that peace and love shit that you can get down with before wanting to retch. Anyway, but there are so many books on how you can get, how you can summon mysterious entities into your presence, and don't think they're not real. But anyway, let's see, in the old magical library, right there in fact, this is but one of many grimoires that you can use. And we have inside of here various directions on conjuring, or evoking, if you will. And we have sigils of the spirits, very important, very, very important. And so, one of my favorites, we have the seals.
Hang on. Bring it over. We're gonna get shots of it.
Okay, hang on. Now these are smaller. I'll show you a bigger version later. But we have seals of the 72 primordial intelligences, aka the demons. This is one of the most oft evoked of all time.
Osaga?
Yes. And Lord Visaga. But I've been working with angels of a certain type, and these are your primary water angels, including Hydriel, of whom I have been a bit of a devotee these days, and that's his sigil. And by having the sigils, you can, in theory, well, that is one of the basic steps in summoning these entities, and they will want to see a sigil, their own. And so this is one of the ways that we summon these entities. Now there's an incredible ritual that goes around it, and this is not for amateurs, but oh yes, this is one edition of many of this particular grimoire. This is, for my money, one of the better editions. However, various editions do have their fans, and there are marvelous manuscripts in the British Museum and in different places, and if you're really interested, you can go there and check it out. However, if you don't want to go all the way to the UK, well, then you can be a lazy little shit and buy the book as I did. These are from a different book. These are sigils of the 72 primordial intelligences. instance. And when you when you conjure them to appear, you use their sigils. That's how it's done. And the operator will have these on their possession, on their person, before even attempting to do a working such as this. I have another page of these. And these are for the 72. There are so many more, but these are some of the most famous. One of my personal faves. And there is a rumor. Phoenix. And there are rumors in magical circles that Phoenix has since progressed from being one of the 72 demons to having been restored to his former state. These are all what Christians like to call the fallen angels. So, if calling up the fallen angels doesn't bother you, then this is a magnificent source of spiritual intrigue and enlightenment. But what I'd like to say is that since I've been showing you these sigils, you see, this is, larger versions of these and hand-drawn will be what the average spiritual operator will have in their hand. These are the sigils that the demons like to see. They will, it is part of the requirement, but that's sort of a portal way for them, and they will recognize their sigil, and they will, at your command, appear to you not as demons, but in a form that you can handle. Anyhow, since I'm showing you these sigils, and that's a portal to summoning entities, and you can see them on your television right now, if I did the proper evocation, I could get these spirits into your home right now through the television. Do you Baptists like that? You like it? I think Fayetteville deserves a great unleashing of demons, and I'm just the person to do it. I'd love to.
Take it away, mofo.
Hi, I'm Mr. Mofo. That's a funny thing. I knew this big Sicilian chef at one point. Well, I worked with a big Sicilian chef at one point. And it was real funny because he looked like a 7-foot-tall Groucho Marx. And one guy, I think, actually walked up to us at one point and said, "Hey, where's Groucho?" Which I thought was just the hilarity of hilarities. You know, no one else really got it because, you know, they weren't really kicking it old school like I was. But he was an ill-tempered bastard. He could, you know, be a real nice guy if he wanted to give you a treat, and then he could turn around and do all kinds of weird things to you. He was not a guy you wanted to get on the bad side of. He was a bit of a backstabber. One funny thing that happened was he was hanging out with my boss. He was kind of like my boss's boss, and I had pretty much figured out what time it was with him at that point. And he and my direct boss were going out and smoking pot in his car after work and all this other fun stuff. And they were getting real buddy-buddy, and I just said to my boss, "Listen, don't trust him. You know, I mean, watch your back with this guy." And my boss was kind of a schmo, and he just, to come up with the basic way I could say what this guy was, he was like Mr. Van Driesen on Beavis and Butthead, or he was like, you know, Mr. O'Neill, I think his name is, on Daria. He was the same guy. He's that kind of guy, and he was a real trusting schmo, and he just kind of laughed it off and said, "Oh, he's my best friend. We always get stoned together. You know, blah, blah, blah. Hey, guess what Chuck just said?" Well, you know, when the time came around when my boss got his ass ripped out by this guy, it was too much of a pleasure to say "I told you so," because, well, the guy turned on me too. Which, you know, when you deal with these sorry, trusting bastards who think they ought to just run around and be open with everybody about every little thing, well, that's, you know, that's when you get banged up the poop chute, baby. I dress like this in real life. This is not a gag.
He really does, folks.
I do always wear the beads and the Santa Claus hat, and I really am kind of a demented saint for all of you.
But tell us how you got those beads, ripping them off the whore's neck in New Orleans and everything.
I ripped them off a whore's neck in New Orleans.
While screwing her.
While screwing her. It was crazy. She said, "Give me back those beads, you bastard." And I said, "Well, you know, show me your tits." But she had this whole weird thing where she didn't take her shirt off. And I mean, you know, integrity's a nice thing, but, you know, it's like, you know, when I'm in the holiest of holies, you know, I mean, very little makes a difference, so I don't know what the hell she was thinking, but, you know, she was plastered. She was on crank and crack and probably heroin or something. She was on damn near everything. And, you know, she didn't know what she was doing, so, I mean, on the way out, I actually scarfed up a few more pairs of beads. I don't think she was any the wiser.
We are the devil ghosts.